Aficionados, welcome to chapter 5. This chapter is on the Elephant Gambit, which occurs after our e4, e5, knight f3, d5. So, a lot of arrows. The point is, for black, that he's playing something offbeat, trying to get us out of our theory, kind of confuse us, throw us off guard. This is played about 2.5 times as much as the Latvian Gambit, and it's quite a bit better than the Latvian Gambit because it doesn't weaken the king, it develops both the bishops, it throws us off, it doesn't defend the e-pawn, but it does counterattack our e-pawn. So all in all, a much better move. Also quite rare, 24 million out of 1.1 billion, so you'll see it about 2.5% of the time in your e4, e5 games. So let's take a look. So white has many ways to go. He could take the pawn, he could take this pawn. Those are by far the two most common moves. Our recommendation is more rare, only 7%, played at 7% rate by white, but it makes a lot of sense. So there's a lot going on here. As all the arrows are showing, the pawns are all attacking each other. The knight is also attacking the pawn. But remember, we're white, and we have the first move advantage, and especially when things open up, it's going to favor us even more. So I'm going to go over three possibilities briefly. I'm going to go over the weakest and rarest possibility first. So I remember starting out playing chess in college. I didn't even have a rating. This was before online chess was big. If I did have a rating, probably be about 800 maybe. And I always wondered, well, what if black just copies us? What if black just copies us? So let's look at that. Even though this is exceedingly rare, only 3% from this position, which is also already rare. So what if he just copies us? Now it's a symmetrical position. So here I'm going to recommend to take the d pawn. Now we're hitting the e pawn 2 times. It's not defended at all. So here black has a couple of options. Most common is e4, but let's look at this first. Say black just continues to copy us. Again, we have a symmetrical position. So here we're going to throw a check in. So a check is a good way to get the guy or gal, whoever our opponent, to stop copying us. Because obviously bishop b5 is not possible because this king is red, embarrassed, in check, under attack. So slightly better is to defend with the bishop than to play c6, which we'll look at next. Now we can take the pawn. Keep in mind, we're capturing a pawn and we're defending our bishop. So we're now pawn up. And if he takes, we can take. And it looks like black's going to get his pawn back. Right? Why there's question marks there? Have a think about it. Looks like, wait a minute, it's still symmetrical, right? We lost 2 pawns, he lost 2 pawns. We're going to castle. He's going to play bishop e7 and castle. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal, whoops, tactics, baby. Tactics, always look out for these type of tricks. Queen takes, royal fork. Queen's going to be lost, and we're going to remain a piece and a pawn up. So that's not possible. C6 is A6 is possible, but then now we're defending this. Now we're just a pawn up. So C6 is a bit better. Well, actually, no. C6 is even worse. Let's just see why. Takes. If knight takes, again, we're just going to be a pawn up. So pawn takes is more common. Now we come back to our favorite diagonal. Attacking this pawn, putting pressure if the black king ever castles. And the only way to defend this pawn, well, actually, he could also play here. But that's probably not very good. He could even maybe gambit a pawn with c3. Or castle first. But say he plays c5, which is the most common move here. We could go after the f-pawn already, and this is reasonable, but the problem is he can check us. And if we block with the bishop, well, we're no longer attacking here. If we block with the queen, he could trade queens and either pull our bishop back or pull our king into the center. So we're going to actually castle first. After bishop e7, looks like maybe black will be okay. He has a pawn down. Remember, the b pawn's going. But he's going to castle. He's got these pawns in the center. Maybe he's okay. Well, we're going to show that he's quite not okay. So knight g5. So what's the big deal? looks like he can just castle, and he's defending this pawn. And generally, we do not want to take we don't want to trade two minor pieces for a rook and pawn, even though it exposes the king, unless we have a very specific tactic. Because yeah, generally the two minor pieces are going to be better than the rook. So yeah, we don't want to do this generally most times. But here we actually are going to take this pawn, and after rook takes, we're going to just leave this in our pocket, so to speak. And in the last video about the Latvian gambit, we talked a lot about this weakened diagonal. Oops, weakened diagonal. But there's also another important diagonal that's involved in a lot of tactics. Yeah, and here we can play queen f3, and this diagonal is now a big problem. You'll notice no one can interpose, the knight can't, bishop can't, and no one can interpose on this square because it's covered twice by our beautiful bishop and our queen. So yeah, he's just going to lose a rook. Not to mention this other rook is a sitting duck. So yeah, that's why this whole symmetrical business is bad. So say black strikes out against our knight, we can come here, nice outpost. It's not quite an outpost because f6 can push us away at some point, but that leads to its own problems. On the other diagonal, queen takes, which is the most common, we can hit the queen, hit the f pawn. He checks us, it doesn't matter. Now we're hitting the queen, we're hitting the f pawn. This is just losing. Obviously, slightly better to take with a knight, but again, we're putting pressure. He breaks the pressure, and we can now attack this pawn. So a lot of times when a pawn is at advance like this, it's going to create problems for our opponent. This pawn is much easier to protect. This one is much harder to protect. I suppose f5 could be played. But then again, here we go again with this nice check. And bishop can't block, queen will just take with mate. g6. Here it gets a bit messy, a bit complicated. But probably, I haven't looked at this, but this just looks nice. Obviously can't take because of the rook. And if he does this, well, we can take this pawn. If he takes here, we're going to win the rook. We're also attacking this knight. Yeah. So yeah, advanced e pawns can sometimes be protected, but especially with the knight here, they're going to lead to problems more often than not. So again, knight f6 is really rare, very rare. Most common by far at 72% is e takes e. We're going to take the e pawn with the knight. Obviously, the knight's attacked. This is a great square anyway. f6 is not playable because of our favorite king attack. So most common is bishop d6. And we're going to bring our bishop out. Again, putting pressure here straight away. This can't be played. We'll just take it. So most common is by far the most common, 96%. This is played. I mean, really, what else is there? Is bishop takes knight, and for a second it might be look like we made a mistake, right? Because if we just take back, all of a sudden the queens get traded. Our king's in the center. We got a slight lead in development, but this pawn's a little advanced and weak. Maybe both these pawns will be taken, and then it's either even or maybe we're even worse because our king is in the center. But that's not what we have in mind. Oh, sorry, I spoiled it for you. We got queen h5, and this is a theme. This is a theme you'll see often in these king pawn openings. We're hitting the f pawn and we're hitting the bishop, and yeah, bishop f6 to defend both. Oops, to defend here and defend here. Well, here we can take with the pawn because we're gaining time on the queen. And yeah, queen g6, we can trade queens, attack the pawn. Yeah, black has a big edge. So more common is queen e7, not blocking the knight. Black's maybe hoping to attack her queen. And here we're going to take the bishop. So in these type of positions, there's a question: do you take with the queen or do you take with the pawn? So if the bishop, for instance, was stuck behind the queen, it would make a lot more sense to take with the pawn because we'd want to keep the queen in a bad position. But here we can actually trade queens. And now our pawn controls this square, so the knight can't come out. This pawn is going to be weaker than this pawn. Knight c6 is the most common, attacking this pawn. And we could try to defend it somehow. Bishop f4 is the most common. F5 not so much because it can just be taken en passant. And bishop f4 is a fine move, but I'm just going to say give him this pawn because we got some choice. We'll develop our own piece. He's going to take this, and now we got a really nice move. So if you forget this move, and you play bishop b3, this is still a nice advantage for white. But here we can counterattack, and this is one of these. This is one of these moves. It's good to know, and it's good to mess around with the engine, mess around on your own. Try to see why, because usually, similar to what I said early in this video, if for instance he takes and we take, and we get the rook in the corner, but he gets this knight, then black will probably be a bit better because again, he's won the bishop and he's going to win the knight, and all we're getting is the rook. But in this specific position, it's not so easy for black at all. So he's going to take the bishop. We're going to take here. Likely he's going to come forward. One of these two moves, d7 or d8. D8 is more common because it's not blocking the bishop in. We're going to take the rook. Say he develops. This is an important move. We're getting this square so the knight can try to come out, and it's hard to actually keep him out. This is a good move, attacking our bishop, defending this square. But the problem is, it's not such a good move now. The knight's just pins, and it's going to be lost. He comes here. This is not a defense because we can defend or eliminate and then win this. And if bishop e6, well, remember, this knight is no longer a defensive piece. So now we're coming out, we're going to trade, and yeah, we're just to exchange and a pawn up. Actually, no, not a pawn because black has this pawn. We're going to exchange up. Black's king is in the middle. His pieces are clumsy and ugly. So yeah, this is the best black can do. So yeah, I mean, I suppose black doesn't have to take this pawn and go down this road, but then he's just a pawn down. So that's the main line. Just remember bishop c4, and after bishop takes knight, we don't want to take and trade queens. We want to play here and get a double attack. And yeah, black's going to get a bad position. So the only line now we have to look at briefly is he takes d instead. So here we're going to take with the queen, and it might look like our queen's going to get kicked around, but remember we are attacking this pawn as well. So yeah, if he takes, and trade queens, come here, and yeah, we're going to win our pawn back. Or after this move to defend against the rook fork, you could even take this knight and just mess up black's pawns. Temporarily, we're a pawn down, or we're easily going to win this pawn back. And black's king's in the center. This is a good position. It's also just possible to take this pawn. It's just a good position um, with black's king in the center. So again, actually that is the most common to take this pawn, but it just leads to a bad position. And if he goes after a queen, we can just take this pawn. Attacking here, attacking here. Oh, but I'm glad I showed you this line. It's another trick to keep in mind. It might look like, oh, the only way to defend this pawn is we either move our king or we play here. But a lot of times in these specific positions where a knight comes attacking a c pawn, you can actually check, and say after c6, we can actually come back. Well, here we probably want to take because otherwise this is free. And now we can come back and defend the c pawn with the bishop. And now we're ready to kick the knight away. Maybe take this pawn, and yeah, it's going to be a bad situation. So yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know for the Elephant Gambit. I got even more variations in my notes in my study. But if you know this much, you're going to catch players off guard who are going to think they're going to catch you off guard, which is the whole idea. And yeah, we're going to keep going through these unusual kind of offbeat openings. And very soon we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of our lines, which are against knight c3. Excuse me, knight c6, bishop c4. We're going to deal with Italian, and we're going to deal with the two knights. But we got to get through all this first. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you feel much more prepared now if you do see